What if I told you that one of the most powerful jobs in America is a position most people have never heard of? Not the president, not the Secretary of Defense, not the head of the CIA, and yet the person in this role helps decide what intelligence reaches the president's desk, what threats are considered urgent, and how America's vast intelligence network works together. Now imagine the president suddenly appoints someone unexpected to that position. That's exactly why Washington is paying attention after President Trump named Bill Pulte as acting director of national intelligence. But here's the bigger question. Why does this matter to investors, businesses, and even ordinary Americans who don't follow politics? Because history shows that when leadership changes at the top of America's intelligence system, the effects can reach far beyond Washington. They can influence foreign policy, they can shape military decisions, they can affect trade relationships, and in some cases, they can move markets. Today, we're going to break down what the Director of National Intelligence actually does, why this position matters so much, who some of the most famous people to hold the job were, and what investors should be watching next. For most Americans, intelligence agencies feel like something out of a spy movie. The CIA, the NSA, the FBI, secret operations, encrypted communications, classified documents. But the reality is that America doesn't have one intelligence agency. It has an entire intelligence community. 18 organizations spread across different departments of government. Each one collects information in a different way. Some focus on foreign governments, others focus on terrorism, others monitor cyber threats, others gather military intelligence. The challenge is making all of those organizations work together. That's where the Director of National Intelligence comes in. Think of it like a giant corporation. Imagine a company with 18 departments. Every department gathers information. Every department has its own priorities. Every department wants resources. Without leadership at the top, information gets stuck in silos. Important warnings can be missed. Mistakes happen. The DNI exists to prevent that. The position was created in 2004 after the September 11th attacks. Investigations found that intelligence agencies often had pieces of information but weren't sharing them effectively. Lawmakers believed America needed someone whose job was to coordinate the entire intelligence community. So Congress created the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The person holding that position became the president's top intelligence advisor. Their job is not to run spies directly. Their job is to make sure the entire machine works together. So what does the DNI actually do every day? First, they oversee intelligence priorities. America faces countless threats: terrorism, cyber attacks, espionage, foreign military activity, emerging technologies. The DNI helps determine which threats receive the most attention. Second, they help coordinate intelligence gathering. Different agencies often collect different pieces of the same puzzle. The DNI helps ensure those pieces come together. Third, they advise the president. Every major national security decision relies on intelligence: military operations, sanctions, trade restrictions, diplomatic negotiations. The president needs reliable information before making those choices. The DNI helps provide it. Fourth, they oversee billions of dollars in intelligence spending. The intelligence community operates on a massive budget. How that money is allocated influences what threats America focuses on, and that can have consequences around the world. Now let's talk about some of the most notable people who have held the position. One of the most famous was John Negroponte. He became the first DNI after the position was created. His challenge was enormous. He wasn't just leading the intelligence community, he was helping build the office itself. Everything from organizational structures to reporting systems had to be developed. His tenure helped define what the job would become. Another major figure was James Clapper. James Clapper served during a period marked by terrorism concerns, cyber threats, and growing tensions with foreign powers. His years in office coincided with some of the most intense debates over surveillance, cybersecurity, and intelligence collection. For many Americans, he became one of the public faces of the intelligence community. Then there was Dan Coats. Dan Coates often made headlines because he publicly discussed threats from countries such as Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. His assessments were closely watched because investors frequently use intelligence warnings as clues about future geopolitical risks. The reason these individuals mattered wasn't because they controlled stock prices. It was because intelligence influences decisions, and decisions influence markets. Let's talk about that connection. Many people think markets move only because of earnings reports or interest rates. Those things matter. But national security matters too. Imagine intelligence agencies discover a growing cyber threat against American infrastructure. Government officials may respond with new regulations. Companies may increase spending on cybersecurity. Defense contractors may receive new contracts. Investors notice. Money moves. Stocks react. Consider another example. Suppose intelligence reports indicate rising tensions between major world powers. Markets may begin pricing in the possibility of sanctions, tariffs, military activity, or supply chain disruptions. Again, investors react, money moves, stocks move. This is why Wall Street watches intelligence developments much more closely than many people realize. Markets hate uncertainty. The intelligence community exists to reduce uncertainty. When information changes, expectations change. When expectations change, prices change. It's really that simple. So why is Bill Pulte's appointment drawing attention? Because the Director of National Intelligence is normally associated with intelligence, national security, military affairs, foreign policy, or government operations. Whenever someone arrives from a different background, observers naturally ask questions. What priorities will they bring? How will they manage the intelligence community? Will their leadership style be different? Will they focus on different risks? Those questions matter because the intelligence community influences how policymakers understand the world, and policymakers influence the economy. Investors should pay attention to three areas going forward. The first is China. China remains one of the biggest strategic issues facing the United States. Any changes in intelligence priorities related to China could affect technology companies, manufacturers, supply chains, and trade policy. The second is cybersecurity. Cyber attacks have become one of the defining security challenges of the modern era. Banks, hospitals, utilities, governments. Everyone depends on digital systems. As intelligence agencies focus more on cyber threats, cybersecurity firms often attract greater investor interest. The third is artificial intelligence. AI is rapidly becoming both an economic opportunity and a national security issue. Governments around the world are racing to understand how AI will affect military power, intelligence gathering, and economic competition. The intelligence community is increasingly involved in that discussion, and investors are watching closely. Now let's step back for a moment. At first glance, a personnel change in Washington may seem like political trivia, but history shows that leadership matters. The people who sit at the top of major institutions shape priorities, they shape decisions, they shape information flow, and sometimes they shape history itself. The Director of National Intelligence is one of the clearest examples. Most Americans couldn't name the current DNI. Many have never heard of the position, yet this office sits at the center of America's intelligence system. It helps determine what information reaches the highest levels of government. It influences how threats are evaluated. It influences how resources are allocated. And indirectly, it can influence everything from foreign policy to financial markets. So when President Trump names Bill Pulte acting Director of National Intelligence, the story isn't just about one appointment. It's about one of the most powerful jobs most people never think about. A position created after one of the darkest days in American history, a role responsible for helping coordinate 18 intelligence organizations, a role that advises the president, a role that influences national security, and a role whose decisions can ripple through governments, businesses, and markets around the world. The next few months will reveal how significant this appointment ultimately becomes. But one thing is already clear. When the person at the center of America's intelligence network changes, people far beyond Washington pay attention. And for investors, that's often where the real story begins.